Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Army of the Dead. I know I've said it before about Zack Snyder, and I think it is, and I've used this quote a lot of times, but I think it's like extra appropriate for this, considering when it was developed and what kind of movie it is and all that stuff. But that George Romero once said about Zack Snyder and his remake of Dawn of the Dead, that it was a very good movie and very impressive, but was really not saying anything. And I think Army of Dead leans more into what George Romero thought of Zack Snyder than I can think of any of his movies, because he's not really trying to say that much, although when he does, it actually sort of works in this, so maybe. But he sort of gets the coolness of zombie movies while also doing the kind of heist ragtag military team going on a mission. This is like a zombie movie meets Guns of Navarone, and it totally knows it and gets what it is. I think a lot of the times you get these like $100 million zombie movies, they're often like trying to do way too much and don't know where the line really is and are trying to say all sorts of things. And like Zack Snyder seemed to get exactly what he was doing with this kind of movie. It feels like he gets that this is junky and silly, but he's having a lot of fun with it. I often find like when you look at Watchmen or like most of the superhero stuff, when he is trying to say some big point or whatever, it's often like the coolness of it that works, and when he's trying to say stuff, it gets muddled in all this nonsense and overly serious, and like, why do we take this guy so seriously and all that. This is kind of the ultimate palate cleanser for the over seriousness of and importance of Zack Snyder, and in kind of the best way, in that I would actually like maybe watch this movie again, even if it is too long, and I don't really watch a lot of movies again anyway. But it was a lot of fun. Like, it gets like what you want from a big splashy blockbuster, it gets what you want from a zombie film, it gets what you want from a heist kind of team up sort of movie, and it's really kind of very good at it. I think what Zack Snyder is more concerned with in this film is the coolness and enough lore to keep you interested and be fun, like a lead zombie with a cape and all this stuff. Basically, the setup of this movie is that there has been a zombie outbreak in Las Vegas. Las Vegas was quarantined, so no one could go in, but Dave Bautista has been asked, after when that all happened, he got the Secretary of Defense out, or it really doesn't matter. Got some Washington guy out, him and his team of people. Now this guy wants him to go in and get $200 million from a vault in Las Vegas and bring it out, because that would be untaxed income that he could receive, and he will pay Dave Bautista and his team $50 million to do this, basically. And so he puts together a team, gets all sorts of different people, a safecracker, people who can shoot things, a helicopter pilot, goes in and has to save these $200 million while also dealing with his relationship with his daughter, who they have become estranged, and she wants to go in and save someone else who went in, who she was close to, and he wants to try to save her and protect her, and also give her money so she can start off on a new life. This is very similar to something like Triple Frontier, which I think a lot of people saw but nobody remembers because it's like sort of overly serious. And I think a lot of these heist films, like heist and like military kind of Dirty Dozen type things, work a little better when they're fun. Unless you're Seven Samurai, like, drop the fucking pretension, because it's just not working for you. Army of Dead sort of gets what it is. That's the main thing. And the other kind of thing I forgot to mention with the plot is they're going to nuke Las Vegas, do a tactical nuke. They're just gonna nuke it, whatever. And they have to get out of there. And the reason they're going to nuke it is the president thought it would be really cool to blow it up on July 4th. I'm not sure if that's like satire or just like what I think a president would say at this point. It is really like a follow-up, sort of artistically, to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. Apparently it was developed while he was making his Dawn of the Dead, and he actually tried to develop it at Warner Brothers, but then that fell apart, and then it went to Netflix, and here we are. I like Zack Snyder's kind of zombie stuff because they're always like fun, they're always fun to watch. Like, I had a good enough time with it. It was a dumb, goofy blockbuster. You could kind of guess like what's gonna happen to each person, and they have like a really good group of people, really. Like, I don't really have as many complaints as usually. I'm like, oh, this style and like this over serious thing. This was just, it seemed like he needed something like this ridiculous. He hadn't really made an original film in a long time, and he hadn't made a film, I guess, since the first cut of Justice League, maybe, or the Snyder cut, whatever, doesn't matter at this point. He hasn't made a film in a while. It felt like he was having like a lot of fun. I like watching directors have a ton of fun, and you can see that going on through the whole screen. It's not necessarily a really deep movie. I think that's like honestly a really good thing for this one. Comparing this to Triple Frontier, which apparently they were also getting like $200 million and all that stuff, like that like had all these like, well, how do we do this, how do we do that, and this is like, how do we shoot a ton of zombies and have a cool sequence with that. And like, I'd much rather, you know, not to sound like stupid or something, but I'd much rather watch them shoot zombies. But I also think like Zack Snyder's intent or artistic intent or auteur intent was far more cut and dry in terms of what he was like ultimately saying with it and trying to do with it, and it made a little more sense character wise, so it's like whatever. But also having like Dave Bautista leading this team, he was really good. I think I don't know why he's not starring in more things. I think I've liked him in pretty much everything he's done cinematically. He's really great here. I won't talk about everyone because there's too many people. Raul Castillo, who I'm just happy he's in a bigger thing. I've liked him for a long time, and he's a really good character actor, and him being like this zombie influencer was kind of cool. As well as the big one I think that most people talk about is Tig Notaro, who was CGI'd basically in after Chris D'Amelio, I think, or whatever. I know it's supposed to be awful. I really don't know his comedy whatsoever, and I never did, and now I don't have to, so whatever, fuck him. But she was really good, actually. I like Tig Notaro a lot. I thought you could tell in some cases it was a green screen performance. In other cases I was like, how did they get that chemistry to work so well? I don't know the full details of all the reshoots, like they reshot or redubbed Dave Bautista's lines or how they did all that. Like, it seemed like it worked pretty seamlessly in a lot of places, and she did a really good performance. I thought she meshed well with the team. It seemed like kind of the perfect way to do that kind of character nowadays anyway. The main thing with this and Zack Snyder is I would prefer him doing kind of big silly blockbusters. This feels like his like Bad Boys 2 in a way, where it's like, I don't really like this director, and I don't really respect him or think his movies are that great, but I do really have fun with the, you know, total ridiculousness of this. And I don't think he could, it almost feels like he could keep it up like a Justin Lin. I think Michael Bay, you know, in Bad Boys 2, that's like the height of his ridiculousness, but it kind of gets old after a certain point. And like this, I'm like, I don't know, I was kind of a little surprised with how much fun I had with it. You know, it just feels like a big dumb blockbuster that sort of got what it was. It comes in and comes out. It also sort of reminds me of like what Train to Busan did, where it's like, let's take the plane movie and the zombie movie and mix them together. I feel like if you're going to do disaster movie and mix it with a zombie film, you have to understand both genres, much like why something like World War Z like sort of didn't work, and a lot of the zombie kind of big Hollywood $100 million things don't, because it feels like a director who like gets the disaster thing and he's like, yeah, I know who George Romeo is, you know, I'm fine, and you're like sitting there like, no, this is awful. And I appreciate like both. This is made in a Train to Busan sort of model in that I know they're trying to make a cinematic sort of universe, much like Train to Busan did. I think they're doing an animated thing and a prequel and all that stuff. And to be honest, like, I would totally revisit that. That sounds like a fun franchise. Like, let's explore like how, you know, they got to, you know, the Las Vegas thing. I like that Roadhead started the whole thing. That was pretty humorous. It's just like a funny light thing. You can have a few beers, and I got really much more into it. In some ways, people complain about the length. If you look at these kind of movies like The Greatest Escape, like I said before, Guns of Navarone or Triple Frontier, I forget, that movie felt like an eternity. I didn't like that movie that much. Or any of the things like that. This is actually sort of an appropriate length. I don't like that movies are this long, but it feels like the kind of thing that's appropriate for it. But ultimately, it's just big and dumb, and, you know, it does its big and dumb thing, and, you know, has all the complications of characters. Like, they can't just like go in and go out. They have to, it's not going to be totally economical. They have to, you know, talk about their relationships, and like, you know, oh, you don't know what it was like with the zombies, and when you did that thing, and like, you're so annoying, and like, I don't trust you, and like all those things. And like, it does so many of those beats so well. It just like it feels so expected if you've seen these kind of movies, but I don't know, it's just good at it. It did feel like Zack Snyder's kind of like very just like, oh, hey, you made a cheese sandwich. Well, this is the cheap beer kind of Zack Snyder thing, where it's like, it gives you exactly what you want from it, and then it's done, and you're fine with the experience, and you probably won't think about it in a week. But I had a good enough of a time. Like, it's like having a good Friday night with a friend who you're like, I don't know, whatever. And then you're like, that was fun. I had a good time. And that's sort of all you get with Army of the Dead. You're just like, it's fluffy, it's a blockbuster thing, but it's kind of nice seeing one that's like actually sort of good at it and doesn't have like some weird plot line that you're like, ugh, whatever. I'm sure there's things to read into about the guy and his daughter in here, which I don't really want to get into, frankly, but it's obviously something you can read into, but this was developed before, so I don't know. Zack Snyder can go into that at some point, but I ultimately think this is probably one of the better heist movies, because it got how much fun this can all be. And I think, as much as like it feels like critics are giving a lot of, and myself are giving a lot of passes to like fun movies lately, when I've rewatched any of these fun movies I've given a pass to, they're all actually like really good fun movies. There's a reason people fall in love with blockbusters and zombie movies and stuff like that, and most directors can't beat George Romero, thus why there hasn't been another one really, and we should just accept the kind of fizzy, sugar-coated blockbuster that it is. And I think in a way, like, this movie gets more of what a blockbuster should be than Hollywood's countless attempts to kind of like bank on the kind of Walking Dead popularity and try to do that with like World War Z, which I'm like whatever with. This is exactly what you want. You want to see people shoot zombies, you get a super zombie, you get all sorts of ridiculous cool set pieces and things like that. Zack Snyder works well in the kind of dumb, silly genre, and this is a dumb, silly zombie movie that says about as much as you'd ever want it to say. So if you've seen Army of the Dead and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.